All right, let's take a look at section 4 of chapter 6. Here's the focus question. Not all Americans experienced the revolution and its effects as an expansion of freedom. Individuals who maintained their allegiance to the British crown, called loyalists, lost their liberties. Many loyalists, which included men and women from all social classes, had supported resistance in the 1760s but opposed independence and war. About 20 to 25% of free Americans were loyalists, and 20,000 loyalists fought for the British. Although there were loyalists in every colony, there were most numerous in New York, Pennsylvania, and the backcountry of Georgia and the Carolinas. The American Revolution took on the quality of a civil war in some places. Neighbors intimidated and assaulted each other. Pacifists who refused to bear arms were arrested and their property seized. Many states required oaths of allegiance, and those who refused were stripped of their voting rights or expelled. Some loyalists had their property confiscated and sold at auction to merchants, lawyers, and established landowners. Tenants, unable to afford the purchase price of the property they worked, had no choice but to continue their labor for the new owners. The Revolutionary Wars, like I said, here we go. So, yeah, here's an image of loyalism. After the war, as many as 60,000 loyalists were banished from the United States or emigrated voluntarily, mostly to Britain, Canada, or the West Indies. A new province, New Brunswick, was created in Canada to accommodate their large numbers. For those who remained, hostility proved short-lived because under the Treaty of Paris, Americans pledged to end their persecution by state and local governments and restore their property seized during the war. American leaders believed the new nation needed to begin with fairness and civility, and therefore test oaths for voting and office holding were repealed, and loyalists were reintegrated into society, though their property was not returned as promised. Loyalists who had left had a profound impact on North America's development because, despite their rejection of the Revolution and loyalty to the Crown, they brought ideas of self-rule and more responsible government with them to the remainder of the British provinces. Their ideas helped launch rebellions, albeit unsuccessful, in 1837 that led to the creation of a single Canadian government in 1867. Thus, the United States-Quebec border was transformed from a colonial line to an international border. The consequences were profound. Without this transformation, the refuge slaves found in Canada after the war and in the 19th century would not have been possible. Irish nationalists likewise found the United States a refuge from British rule and a base to launch raids to strike a blow against the rule of their homeland. Loyalist exiles were viewed as Canadian founding fathers, and Canada came to identify its identity in opposition to the United States, though good ideas always flowed easily between the two. Today, each country is the other's largest trading partner. Indians, in particular, faced the revolution as a loss of freedom. Between the proclamation of 1763 and the American Revolution, colonists continued to move westward and claim Indian lands east of the Mississippi. Many leaders in the Revolution, including Washington and Jefferson, were deeply involved in Western land speculation, and British efforts to restrain land speculation was a major grievance of the Virginians supporting independence. Different Indian tribes backed the British or the Americans in the conflict, and some tribes, like the Iroquois, split internally over the war and fought each other. Both the Americans and their Indian enemies inflicted atrocities on each other and civilians during the war. Independence created state governments that were democratically accountable to voters who wanted Indian lands. Many, including Thomas Jefferson, saw the war as an opportunity to secure more land and liberty for white Americans by expelling or conquering the Indians. The Treaty of Paris marked the end of a process whereby power in eastern North America moved from Indians to white Americans. Limiting the British in eastern North America to Canada, the agreement led the British to abandon their Indian allies and recognized American sovereignty over the entire region east of the Mississippi River, disregarding the natives who lived there. For Indians, on the other hand, freedom meant independence and possession of their land, or their own land, and they used Americans' language of liberty to defend themselves. So, that's the end of section 4.